Welcome back to The Explainer. Today, we're diving straight into the deep end of Temsula Ao's captivating story, The Potmaker. If you've ever thought about how passion, the heavy weight of tradition, and generational sacrifice all kind of collide, well, you're in the right place.
A new potmaker was born. Now, what's really fascinating about this powerful final line is that it's actually the emotional destination of our whole journey today. It's a story that is literally rooted in the earth, in the clay, and in the sacrifices that keep cultures breathing. Let's see how we get there.
Section 1. The Call of Clay. To really wrap our heads around this journey, we have to start with Scintilla. From the time she was just a kid, her one and only dream was to become a skilled potmaker, exactly like her mother and her grandmother before her. She'd sit there intently watching the women of the village work, just totally captivated by the magic of their craft. It was like a calling. But her mother, Arenula, she was firmly against it. And that sets up a pretty fascinating clash. Which brings us to Section 2, Passion versus Practicality. So you've got Scintilla's highly romanticized view of art on one side, slamming right into Arenla's harsh physical reality on the other. I mean, have you ever been wildly passionate about something your parents thought was just totally impractical? While Scintilla saw beauty and heard this musical rhythm in the work, Arenla felt the literal backbreaking reality of it. She knew exactly what it meant to trek miles to the riverbank, haul heavy clay back home, and then pound it inside bamboo cylinders just to soften it up. All of that for barely any money. Because of that brutal reality, Arenla had a completely different plan. Scintilla actually overheard her parents talking and realized her mother was pushing for her to take up weaving instead. And honestly, you can't blame her, right? It was way easier, cleaner, you could do it indoors no matter the weather, and crucially, it paid a lot better. It was the logical choice for a mom who just wanted an easier life for her kid. But Scintilla's love for the clay, that wasn't going to be put out by simple practicality. Defying her mother, Scintilla started secretly watching the village experts. She closely studied the incredibly demanding ancient pottery process. You mix and soften the clay with water, shape it with your hands and a spatula while constantly rotating it, dry it in the sun, and finally bake it in a kiln. And that last step is so delicate that just a tiny bit too much heat could ruin the whole batch. But to Scintilla, the rhythmic tapping of the spatula during that shaping phase, it sounded like absolute music. She was watching shapeless dirt transform into art. Eventually, the rest of the village caught on to her obsession, and this introduces a concept that's absolutely crucial to the story: community custodianship. The argument over Scintilla's future actually got so heated that the village elders had to step in. They pulled her father aside and laid down the law, reminding him that preserving this craft wasn't just some personal family choice, it was a cultural imperative. These traditional skills belong to the community. They are literally the history of their people, and they have to be passed down if the culture is going to survive. Section 3. The Power of Mentorship. So feeling the weight of the whole community looking at her, Arenla finally caves and takes Scintilla to the riverbank to train. But as we quickly see, passion alone isn't going to master the clay. Scintilla knew how to soften the dough, sure, but she struggled to actually shape it for nearly a year. A whole year. No matter what she did, it just wasn't working. You can imagine the tension. She felt completely ashamed and frustrated under her mother's strict, critical eye. Then, enter Onula. By village custom, Scintilla was staying in a girls' dormitory run by this kind widow. And Onula, she noticed Scintilla's nervous tension. One evening, after secretly watching Scintilla basically give up in pure disappointment, Onula steps in. She didn't scold her. Instead, she offered this calm, patient guidance. She realized Scintilla needed to relax into the rhythm, completely shifting the vibe from, "you have to get this right," to simply trusting the process. And here is the real turning point. Onula gives her this piece of gold. Pay attention to the rhythm and movement of your mother's hands. That was the secret of the spatula. It wasn't about forcefully manhandling the clay. It was about relaxed, careful observation. It was about feeling it. And after Onula's calm demonstration, Scintilla managed to shape a pot successfully for the very first time. Moving to Section 4, a beautiful, tragic legacy. So carrying Onula's advice, Scintilla watched her mother's hands with a totally new, relaxed focus during their next session. And then a massive shift happened. Onula was dealing with some awful body aches and a headache, so she went inside to rest, leaving Scintilla to work all by herself. Almost instantly, the skill just clicked. Scintilla caught that elusive, perfect rhythm. Her speed, her coordination, it all came together, and she just started skillfully churning out pot after pot, practically matching her master-level mother. But her huge moment of artistic triumph, it was shattered in a second. Exhausted but absolutely thrilled by her breakthrough, Scintilla runs inside to grab her mother for lunch, only to find a horrifying scene. Arnla was lying lifeless on the floor. She had passed away. Just like that. The next morning, a grieving Scintilla followed the funeral procession, just crying bitterly and begging her mother for forgiveness. But hanging over the whole village, and especially over that abandoned workshed, was one massive question. Had Scintilla truly learned the craft before it was too late? Was their legacy secure, or did it die right there with Arenla? Well, Anila steps into the shed and gives us the answer. Sitting right there are 2 rows of fresh pots. You've got Arnila's final batch on one side and Scintilla's brand new pots on the other. And when you look at them, they are equally beautiful, equally skillful, and this is the crazy part. They are completely indistinguishable from one another. You literally couldn't tell who made which. So, what do those matching pots really mean? They are the physical proof of a true inheritance. Art, talent, tradition, heritage, all passed down successfully. And it's a testament to the absolute power of keen observation and patient mentorship. Against all odds, the legacy was safe. Which brings us full circle right back to our opening quote. A new potmaker was born. A master was born for sure, but born out of sudden, tragic loss, all wrapped up in this beautiful, rhythmic, generational transfer. The baton was passed, painfully, but successfully. As we close out this explainer, I want to leave you with a thought to chew on. What invaluable traditions and skills in your own community are just sitting there, quietly waiting for a new custodian to pick up the rhythm? The history of a culture literally lives in the hands of those willing to learn it. Think about that for a bit. Thanks for joining me, and keep exploring.